Hey, Joseph.
Hey.
What's been going on? Look at this long hair.
It is long. It is.
Oh my gosh.
I like it, but I think it's like getting to be too long. Maybe.
Well,
Certainly for a courtroom. Look at all that
exactly.
back there. I
mean,
feel like
yeah,
I could have a ponytail back
I don't
there.
know. If you were my trial attorney, I'd be like, hi. Whatever he says.
I wish it worked that way. Can we just like thin it out maybe a little bit, or just like trim it up so that it doesn't look so shaggy?
Yes. I'll do what chicks dig. How's that?
All right. That works for me as long as one of them thinks it looks good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. And who would that be? Little someone special in your life going on, or what's been happening?
Yeah, it's been pretty cool actually. You remember when I used to say I never wanted a relationship again?
Oh,
I
God,
was
yes.
done. I was
That's
finished.
why I'm kind of like, wait, what are you telling me right now?
No.
Yeah.
No, and oddly enough, it was at a boxing match.
At a boxing match?
I was at a boxing match, and this woman, that blonde like you, was sitting in the front row, and I said to a friend of mine, hey, what's the story with her? Cool.
All right.
So we started talking, and it was interesting because she lives a long way from here. It's a long distance relationship for sure. Almost 2,000 miles apart.
Sometimes those are the best because that's how you get to know each other.
Right.
Right?
Right. And so we met, and what began was a series of calls and texts over time that were wide-ranging, both personal, kids. She has adopted kids. I have adopted kids. So that was a big connection right there.
Yeah, what are the chances of that?
I know. 7 between the two of us. 7 adopted children between the two of us.
Wow.
So we had something to talk about in that regard. But
that's just very rare that you would find that too.
But the best part is being apart the way we were. We got to know each other on a very deep level, on a spiritual level. Some people might scoff at that, but it was personal, spiritual. A lot of questions about what do we believe. I really was deeply attracted to her spirit. There was something about her spirit that jumped at me, and her kindness that I could tell from her eyes that she's a very kind person, open person, a lot like me in terms of liking to talk with people and deal with people. Very down to earth. She's originally from Minnesota, so she's that Midwestern thing going that I've got going.
Values going on
right.
too.
I mean, you got Wisconsin and Minnesota together. But yeah, that was so.
Have you always been that way, and that's how you judge who you kind of want to spend your time with?
No.
When you were younger, and no?
I don't think so. I think as I got older, I began to judge people on what matters more. Physically is nice, but physical is pretty shallow. And I think, in some relationships, the physical part started early. And if that's what you got going at first, I mean, some people can do that, right? I'm not judging anybody. I know people that did that, and they've been married for many, many years. But for me, it was more of the getting to know. And so this was...
Maybe you wanted a deeper, richer relationship.
Well, this was kind of, I wouldn't say forced, but since we were so far apart, the only thing we had was emailing, texting, talking on the phone.
Right.
I like to write letters. I'm a letter writer, so I've written a lot to her. Usually put something in the mail every Monday, so she'll get it by Thursday. And so one day, I was reading this book, and it talked about how to build a relationship and how the physical part of a relationship can interfere with the matters of the heart, I would put it, right?
I would agree.
Right? And so for us, the phrase that I always use is that we didn't fall in love, we crawled in love. We were crawling in love, and it was so...
Does that mean like taking it slow?
Yeah, we had no choice, right?
Right.
We were apart. We only got to see each other. It took a long time before we got to see each other in person after that one night. And people say to me, well, how can you have a relationship when you met somebody and you talked to them for 2 hours at a karaoke bar?
Right.
And you talked for 2 hours.
Because you still were face to face, you were still talking, and you had things in common. It's the dating site
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that. So I get what you're saying. I wouldn't ask you that question.
Well, I
I get it.
read her eyes and immediately could see what kind of a soul that she had. I know that sounds cliche, but it's really true for me. And then over time, we got to know each other's spirit and our soul and our personalities and how we dealt with our children and the good things in life and the tough things in life. And so it was
Wow.
natural that the only thing we could do was talk.
Yeah, that definitely comes with maturity then.
So it was really nice. But the only reason I think a lot of this work though is over the course of the last 7 years, I've had to do a lot of self-reflection and working on myself. And I really think that until that happens, a relationship is going to be fraught with peril because you're bringing to it, I would be bringing to it, all of the brokenness from the past. Now, the brokenness is there, but the brokenness has been worked on. And I've spent a lot of time working with both, therapists and people that care, and we talk with, and a men's group I was in Miami that was very helpful, and people that I still connect with. But until I never understood what it meant to say you should need to have self-love. I just think that was a bunch of gobbledygook nonsense,
Makes sense.
new age stuff. But
Wow.
it is absolutely true because I had a lot of issues that go back to my childhood and my teen years. That, like somebody asked me today about what's one thing about you that people would never know, and I said I think if people who know me today that didn't know me as a boy would never believe that I was the kid who ate by himself in the lunchroom.
That's something. Yeah, I wouldn't believe that.
Didn't have very many friends. Never went to a party in high school. Never dated in high school. Didn't go to the prom.
I was just going to ask, did you go to your senior
No,
prom?
didn't go to prom. Didn't have a girlfriend. Never got invited to a party. So when I look
Boy,
back,
as times change.
so when I look back at high school, it's not with fondness, and so that's so. But the thing is that was just festering in me and had never been dealt with, and so over the course of the last 7 years, I've had to deal with a lot of issues like that. Like my father passing away when I was 12, and what it was like growing up without having a father figure in my life, and
Sure.
trying to figure out life pretty much on my own. Although I did have some fantastic mentors in my life over the course of the years. But so there's a buddy of mine in Miami, his name is Mark. And I remember Mark used to listen to me talk, and he'd say to me, you don't need any enemies. The way you talk to yourself is pretty brutal. I mean, you call yourself a dumbass all the time, and you're an idiot, and why do you do these stupid things? He said, you don't need any enemies. You're doing it all on your own, but until you change that, your life is going to be very difficult. And so I began to see that. And then once I learned self-forgiveness for the past and self-grace and self-love, that it became real, that became primary in my life. Until that happened, I was never ready for a relationship. But I think once that has been established in someone's life, and it takes a lot of work to do that, conscious work, then I have a lot more to offer, I think. And I think that's what then makes it more appealing to what I would call a woman of value. A woman that's
Definitely.
looking for something of value in a man, as opposed to, physical or material things. So it's a big change in my life. And so it all came together. Sometimes it takes a trauma to do that work.
Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, I had something that occurred a few years ago, and it really made me take a deeper look into what's going on in my life. And I mean, I spent a lot of my life as a very angry guy, and I didn't know why. I didn't understand why. So I started doing a deeper dive on my childhood.
Did you figure out why? Is it because your father left?
It wasn't
at an
just that
early
he
age?
died at an early age. Is that he was a '50s dad, right? So, and he was never home, and I'm the oldest, and I'm named after him, and I wanted nothing more than his approval, but I couldn't get his approval.
Because he wasn't home enough to
He
give
wasn't
it to
home enough, and then again, what I was like as a kid was not what he wanted. He was very academic. I was not. I was into sports. He was not. But a lot of his lessons,
Wow.
a lot of his lessons permeated me. A lot of who I am today is a lot like him, even though he was only with me for 12 years. of my life.
I think you'd be quite proud of you at this point.
Yeah, I think so. It took me a while to get to that point, but I think so too. So there was a lot of resentment from that. And then that led to a pretty bad self-esteem,
Yeah.
which then made me the target of people who could take advantage of that
Sure.
and use my desperation for approval for their own uses. So the key is that I wasn't looking for someone. I went out with a woman right after I got divorced, and I remember she said to me, "You complete me." And I was like, no, I don't. No, I do not. Don't put that on me. And, you know, I mean, I think that was from some movie. I don't remember.
Yeah,
It was,
that's
Jerry
Maguire.
Maguire. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of nonsense, you know,
Right.
because you complete yourself. And
Yes,
then you have to
complete
offer
yourself.
something to someone. And then the two of you come together and it becomes an us.
Exactly.
As long as you have each your individual selves that are well developed. So until that happened, I would always, like in the last relationship I had, I looked for my self-worth from that individual. And if that individual didn't say, you know, you're great, well then my day could be shattered if I didn't get that positive feedback. But yeah, so I think I was ready this time. Even though I swore it would never happen. I don't need this, you know, relationship with nothing but a pain in the butt.
Right.
But this time, because I think I was settled with who I am, and I was able to give who I am, and I found someone who accepts who I am completely, and I accept who she is completely. It's really different. It's really different. It's really nice.
How refreshing.
So crawling in love is the key.
Falling in love.
Yeah.
I like that.
It was months before we actually got to see each other. After that night, you know, at the karaoke bar.
Right.
It was months before we saw each other. And then it was really cool.
I bet it was.